this is Jazz, finally bringing you my 2023 Halloween special. This will either be out on Halloween itself or the day after, because I apologize, I am sick with a cold, so I'm doing my best to get it out in a timely manner, but forgive me if not. This video is kind of special because I'm going to recount some of my memories with the two shows, Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps, along with giving you my top 5 was scariest episodes in my opinion of each of them. But for my sanity, guys, and the YouTube copyright, I'm not using footage for these this year. I'm going to find some pictures with each episode, but I just don't want to deal with that of already being sick and everything. I don't have the energy, to be fair, to go through each episode and cut each clip just to get it flagged, if you know what I mean. Any big YouTubers watching will understand completely what I mean. So, we'll start with some of the memories. I remember that I used to go and visit my aunt, who now I live with, ironically, when I'm between 6 and 9 years old, but this is more prevalent when I was 6, because I remember Goosebumps would always say, not for kids under 7, right? Isn't it so funny now how small a 7-year-old actually is? Like, they're no grade higher than grade 2, and if not grade 1, right? And back then that was the cool age, because I could watch Goosebumps. I mean, I was allowed to watch Goosebumps before then with my aunt with me, but it was the cool age. And now, wow, like, and Are You Afraid of the Dark? I remember as a child, this show absolutely horrified me. Like, some episodes traumatized me, not to a real traumatic point, but it scared me to death in some ways. But I hate to say this, guys, just to go into the point of my countdown, both of these shows have watered down into me drastically. And everything I was finding horrifying from Are You Afraid of the Dark now? Yeah, not very much now. I will admit, Are You Afraid of the Dark is still more horrifying than Goosebumps. Surprisingly, that Goosebumps ever horrified me at all. Honestly, it was both of these lists that I'm about to give had problems in their own right. Are You Afraid of the Dark? There were so many episodes that I could consider to be scary. Now, for me, this list is going on more objectively than what actually scares the living daylights out of me now. Some of it still, I do have good memories that did scare me, and I still would hold to it. But there were so many episodes that could be objectively scary for not just the monster reason, but for the life reasons too. Like topics they went over that would be a scary thing to deal with in real life, right? It's not just the monsters that is part of this list anymore. It's the whole moral and the episode in general for these. Now with Goosebumps, I had the opposite problem. I did actually find an okay list that I would kind of consider. They were kind of half-heartedly at it, a lot of them, because I was trying to do something to make up some type of list to make it to 5. And it took so long to really think, well, was this really scary? Was this worth being put on the list, right? It's just, you kind of see what I mean? They both have their opposite problems. Like, one has too many episodes, and I have to narrow it down to 5 that really, really would fit, I feel. And the other, I had to fight just to really decide on 5, because there wasn't enough in a way that was really scary. So anyway, guys, again, these aren't going to go in any particular section of the mode. I'm going to go over it, talk about them a little bit, and then, move on to the next episode. So, I think of I'm doing Are You Afraid of the Dark first, and the 5th scariest one for me was The Tale of Apartment 214. Now, guys, I am doing this again in order of what I find is the least scariest, because I remember as a child, this is one of the episodes that scared me crapless, right? And the thing is, so the reason it is so low, like, honestly, I almost didn't add it at all, because now it isn't even scary at all, more sad in a way, and I would have replaced it with the virtual pets, which maybe I'll go as an honorable mention in a bit after the others are done. But the reason I decided to stick with it, because there was only one section that really scared me even as a child, and it still is sort of scary when Stacy broke her promise and Madeline was so angry and revealing that it was the day she died, and the voice they use, the echoing, the loud voice. I'm a voider for loud sensory things, so that was part of it too, right? But I also never liked confrontations, right? So if someone is mad at someone, that always bothered me. So I did decide to add it more for nostalgia purposes this time than any other one on this list. That it was really, really horrifying back when I was a child, but I'll admit, nowadays, it doesn't hit as hard as it used to hit me, but I still added it to the list for the nostalgia purpose. It really was a horrifying thing when you think about it. So, I think I will go over virtual pets right now for a minute. We'll say this is what should be my number 5. And it's just about a bunch of kids who get taken over by virtual pets. It's like not like a virus, but like a monster, and replaces them for they can take over mankind. And that concept is scary. And also the fact that I am so into digital stuff, like games and technology, that how easily that would be me, honestly, and that's more what is scary. So argumentatively, to me, that is more scary than the Apartment 214, but I just had to still add the Apartment 214. So we'll just say 5 was Apartment 214 and virtual pets. Right, so let's get on to number 4, which is The Tale of the Night Nurse. Now, you could argue that in the end, the fact that the nurse meant well, that she wasn't really a monster, and in some ways that's true, but there's a couple of reasons this episode still kind of horrifies me. One, up until that part when it's revealed she didn't mean to kill that girl, she was horrifying. Chasing, peering out of nowhere, chasing the poor girl. Again, I don't go much with names, I just from what I remember. And it was horrifying. I'm sorry, I would hate having a doctor or a nurse do that to me. Second, is maybe a little silly to you guys, but to me this means everything. Allergies. The girl was killed because she was allergic to penicillin, and she dropped her medical bracelet and didn't put it back on. And the nurse did not know, she broke her leg. So penicillin is supposed to help with the pain, right, and help with the healing. So the nurse didn't know that if she had had it, she would have died. So really, I sort of feel bad for the nurse because the girl was so irresponsible. My gosh. I mean, that's why they ask about allergies, right? With medicine. And also, obviously I don't have a medical bracelet for my nut allergies. I have the EpiPen, and I tell people I'm allergic to nuts because it's normally not as big of a deal because I don't need to eat anything, right? That might have nuts in it. I can't downright refuse, right? The only time I would be forced if some hostage were there and that's what they had, it's a real thing. Allergy scares is a real thing, and dying from allergies is a real fear of mine. So it really hits home for me, this episode, and that particular reason, and that's probably the biggest reason this is on the list. Because again, because of the girl's irresponsibility, which I would never do. If I had an allergy to penicillin or something medical that could be used on me anytime for any reason, I would wear that bracelet constantly. Even if I sleep, I would wear that bracelet. So as I said, for me, it was more of a personal fear that this was on the list. So, number 3 on the list is The Tale of the Dead Man's Float. Now, this is more scary for me because of the monster itself. Yeah, this is one of the 3 monsters that I find genuinely terrifying, but one I didn't add to the list because he just didn't hit as hard to me. But this one, my god. A skull coming out from the water. And it starts off with this lovely scene of a boy drowning to death. Okay, I know how morbid I sound with me retelling it that way, and traumatizing the lifeguard for life. I mean, what a strong way to start. Right? And we don't even see the monster at this point, and we know something is wrong, right? And I know you could argue that a lot of it isn't as scary. It's just talk about this boy having a crush on this girl. He doesn't know how to swim. She sucks at chemistry, like science. And they go and they teach each other, and they learn from everything, right? Like the girl knows that sulfur, I think sulfur was the chemical that would kill the monster because she remembered the lesson from him, and in the end she saves them. But it's still, the monster, when you see it, is horrifying. I mean, I think there's only one monster I obviously think was more horrifying than that, and that'll come later in this countdown. But yes, I know this is more for the pure monsters aspect of it, but also for the fact that a kid who was younger than 13 died. They had the balls to kill him off. I mean, wow, are you afraid of the dark? Like, just wow. Like, what was the age rating for that show anyway? I'm gonna have to check at some point and put it there when I'm editing and doing my research, but gosh, like, there really isn't much more I could say about it besides those 2 points, but that was enough for me to add it even as low as number 3. So, the second scariest is kind of a 3-way tie because it's all the same one, The Tale of the Silver Sight. Guys, okay, I'm going to have a little bit of a spoiler for what I didn't add to the list, that I said that there was 3 monsters I found sort of terrifying. Okay, 4, including this one. And the 4th monster to me that was a little more scary was the Ghastly Grinner. That was a really freaky episode, but to me, it just didn't make it high enough for me to go on the list. So, The Tale of the Silver Sight. Oh, that kid. That monster, I know it wasn't a kid necessarily, but he was so creepy, even though he looked like an innocent little kid. He may not have looked as terrifying as the Ghastly Grinner in the looks department, but the evilness to him is, I don't want to say it. Like, it was mostly the kid itself that really brought the issue. And also the fact that every single, the Silver Sight brought everyone bad, all the families bad luck, and bad things happened to them, including death in 2 situations, like becoming poor when you were rich. Like, it would give you your wildest dreams to bring you down, right? And it's just imagine getting everything you imagined, right? Like, let's say it's just like a genie, right? But then the opposite happens, then the bad happens. It's just the monster and that itself that really terrifies me. Like, it goes to show, never take anything strange, because you might end up either becoming poor, destitute, dead. Okay, yeah, it's a little off in real life, because this isn't real life, but it's just no. I just don't want to think of those scenarios happening to me, because again, there's so many things happen. Like, Tucker gets chased by a bunch of armor. Like, the kid brings the armor to life in this guy's house. Right, one of the remaining former Midnight Society member. right? And goes to attack him. Like, it's everything of that episode. It's really creepy. So, number 1 on this list might be a little obvious. The Tale of the Night Shift. I brought this up before a couple years ago in my Halloween special. I know it was redundant me bringing it up again, but I couldn't make that list without this episode. That monster is the one monster I find the most terrifying in Are You Afraid of the Dark history. Because I don't know what, like, it's a vampire, but it's this creepiest looking vampire. It's a monster vampire hybrid to me is how it feels. Because I've never seen a vampire so creepy. None. Like, and the way it gets out of the blue, like it just shows up out of the blue, like especially at the very beginning, that was probably the creepiest scene in Are You Afraid of the Dark I've ever seen. And that's saying something. Although I'll have to correct myself from that last video. This, in fact, was not one of the last ones before the new reruns. No, it was third last. So the show kept continuing after this. I don't know if this is what brought it downhill. You know, saying to parents like, why are we showing this to our kids? Bring this off the air. Or, I don't know, but the fact that there was 2 others after this. Honestly, I think that would have been enough to scare any kid from never watching it again. But yeah, guys, that was my top scariest Are You Afraid of the Dark episodes. So let's get on to Goosebumps, which will be a little more interesting for me to mention because, yeah, I had to scratch things out a few times, so the order may not be as right as it should. So we'll start with number 5 whenever I find it. Yeah. Okay, number 5. Don't Scare Mummy. Yeah, this is what I actually watched recently. I know I could have said The Curse of the Mummies too, but just to me, I don't know why, this just seems a little scarier. Like, the mummy was horrifying, right? And the fact that if he got his card, he would have been. The fact that it was revealed he was a killer. I don't remember if that was mentioned in The Return of the Mummy, which again, they never put Curse of the Mummy's tomb in the episodes, which was tragic, but the guy was the pharaoh because he killed his brother, because normally the 11th would become the pharaoh, and he was the 12th. So he killed his brother to take the throne. That is messed up. And he wanted to become human so he could kill again in real life. Honestly, I think that brings it over Curse of the Mummies too, with just a little bit. And the ending, well, the ending wasn't so scary. It was more funny in a way, but it was also scary that a cute little cat was the jump scare at the end, and we don't know what happened to the boy. But one interesting thing in this episode that I thought is that the mother was actually there. She actually was part of the action. The parent was in this. Like, at first she didn't believe him, but when she saw that he was alive, like, you know, right before her eyes, like, and the father was up in Egypt, right? So one of the parents actually was along with the venture with the kids this time, rather than them saying, oh, you're not, you know, they're not there, they're oblivious, you know. This time the mother was right there smack in the chaos. So I just find that amazing too. But again, to me, out of all of them that I mentioned here, this was the least scary to me. It was more of a monster scare, and the fact that the guy was a killer, that was kind of like they did in a kids show. They did that in a kids show. So number 4 is Bride of the Living Dummy. Now eventually I was going to put the Living Dummy 3, Night of the Living Dummy 3, but honestly, this is more the ending that messed me up in Bride of the Living Dummy. The whole thing was creepy enough that Slappy wanted to marry a little girl. Honestly, I don't know how old Slappy is supposed to be portrayed as, but at least an adult, right? That's creepy and wrong in all sense of the word. At first, the doll thought it was meant to be her that she was in love with, right? But it was really Katie was her name. Like the girl, the little girl, she was like, she couldn't be old. She's younger than 10. Yeah. That I remember that now. That was so messed up. I don't know how I just remembered that and thought of that now. But that just adds to it. That is so, I probably would have put it higher though in that, but still that is so messed up. And the cousin or the friend, I don't know if it was the brother in the book of it. I never read the book. But after everything is settled, right, they thought they destroyed Slappy, and then suddenly the friend, Harrison, gets possessed by Slappy, and even the parents see this. His eyes are huge like the dummy, and says Harrison doesn't live here anymore. That is kind of what did me in. Like the other one, yes, with Saint turning his head, it was creepy, yes, but he's still as creepy as it was. He still looked a little more human than Harrison did. I don't know why, it's just, And when you think about it, this is out of the 2 dummy episodes I considered adding, to this list, this and the book have pretty much the same ending, only the relationship was different with him. They both get possessed, where in the other one, in the book of The Living Dummy 3, Slappy is still alive, but Slappy goes with Zane. But nothing happens to Zane. Right? So it's more true to the source material, The Bride of the Living Dummy. So I decided to add it for that reason, because they're both just as dark in general, more dark in general. So yeah, there's not much to say about that, only those 2 points that I just mentioned, which again, I can't get over. He wanted okay, I'm done. I'm gonna stop talking about that. I do not want to be flagged. Alright. Number 3 is Don't Go to Sleep. Yeah. Imagine being sent to different realities, one worse than the last. I honestly think that the episode's realities over the book's realities are far scarier. Because, yes, there's some scary situations in the book where he becomes a little kid, he becomes a big kid, and all that. But in this one, he becomes a surgeon, a bomb diffuser. Situations that he cannot do at all. And bad things will happen. And those 2 men chasing him are far creepier, I believe, than in the book. Honestly can't handle it. In a way, everyone sleeps, so that could be a real nightmare. Obviously it could have been a nightmare, but that would still be horrifying. And in the end, the poor kid, honestly, I don't know what happens to the poor kid, because the guys reappear and close the basement or the attic door, and I don't know, it's one of those endings that are, what's the best saying for it? Non-conclusive, as it feels. Yes, the 2 guys aren't as scary as some of the monsters, I know, but just the what they're doing, right? And he almost gets sentenced to, I don't know. The judge was horrifying too, I don't know. Is this it to me? I just find the idea really, really... Alright. Number 2 is werewolf skin. Guys. Honestly, this is on this list only for basically that one scene, which again, I don't want to show you because of how YouTube is, right? But where he's in the forest treatment and his teacher comes out, and then he just is like a jump scare of not a screamer necessarily, but just like a jump scare where you're like, or growling, and that, as much as it scared him, it almost scared me too. And just the whole idea of the people you're living with not like being monsters in a way, even though like was because Aunt Martha and Uncle Colin were taken over by the werewolf skin, and they were trying to keep them safe, but there were instincts they had that it was implied that they killed people and ate them as well. So all in all, this is a really dark episode, I think, for kids. Like, yes, I know you could argue that the Fever Swamp was pretty scary too, but just to me, it wasn't as near as scary as Werewolf Skin. It's not as, I'll admit though, that Werewolf Skin's book ending was darker than the episode, which would reduce some points for making it number one, because in the book, Alex actually gets turned into a werewolf by Hannah, and the other one, well, it isn't quite directly implied if she did or not, but she didn't look as threatening, right? As in the book. So, yeah. And number one is kind of a, what is it, a three-way again, because this is the same thing and it's a chillology. Now, guys, take note that the chillology was an episode that wasn't based on anything R.L. Stine did. It was original. And it's just the facts of it that is scary. Like in the Squeal of Fortune, she gets turned into a pig because she's greedy and tries to get more money by saying this is the last cup of lemonade. And they say that like pigs, like their greed are pigs or something like that, and turns her into a pig, and everyone goes to try to make her into bacon. Yeah, the other two to me weren't as bad, but they're all in the same vein where they're in Carlsville and bad things happen to the kids, right? So it's all of a creepy, like they all have their own faults, right? To a degree, and they all kind of get treatment based on those faults, and it's just the idea of teaching kids that way. To me, it kind of reminds me of the Grisly Tales from Gruesome Kids. But, you know, never thought I'd say this, less morbid and more of a happy ending. Yes, that's it. Right? It's just, honestly, guys, out of all the episodes that I went over, that to me was scariest in most cases because of the lessons it teaches and the really realness it feels like. I don't know how to say it. But anyway, guys, that was my Halloween special. Sorry if it was late. As I said, I was sick and I'm just trying to figure out like how to do it and edit it. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up. And if you're new to this channel and like what you see, please subscribe and help this channel a lot. And don't forget to hit the bell notification so you know when new videos are coming out. And I'll see you guys in my next video.